Welcome to Selling Tri-Cities, where we are selling more than homes. This project was created to share our love and passion for this beautiful part of the country that we are lucky enough to call home. We want to showcase the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, and the beauty that makes the Appalachian Highlands one of the most desirable markets in the nation. But most importantly, we want to introduce you to the people that make this area such a wonderful place to live. So join us as we sell you on our love for the Tri-Cities. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling Tri-Cities. We are selling more than homes with your co-host Gregg Pechmann and Aubrey. Today we are lucky enough to have Tyler Minton with Tyler Minton Nutrition here. We are really excited to have him come share his story and talk about a couple of the businesses that he runs and operates here locally and globally. So thank you, Tyler, so much for coming in. I am lucky enough to call you a neighbor. And East Tennessee is very lucky to have you as a resident. So first, kind of introduce yourself, but just a little bit about, just don't go into detail, but a little bit about your businesses that you currently own and operate, but then I really want to go into your story.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Tyler Minton, and pretty much everything I do is nutrition focused. I own a company that primarily consults people. I work with general population and professional athletes, and we do nutrition consulting, meal planning, really about anything around nutrition you can, supplement protocols. And then I had so many people asking me how I recommend my athletes eat that I just decided it would be better to give them that and monetize that. So then I bought and rebranded a meal prep company in the area so I could actually offer meal prep doing the exact same thing. So all the things with the meal prep company are the same meals and structure of the things that I have, professional athletes using.
So I want to talk a little bit about your story and kind of how you have built, this wonderful business and your success story. I know it's cliche, but it is kind of that, the rags to riches. I hate even saying that, but the Cinderella story. But you had no fairy godmother granting you wishes. Everything that you have built, you did it out of grit and determination and hard work and perseverance. And I love your story.
I have realized, especially now in the nutrition world and fitness in general, it's so filled with snake oil salesmen and people who are just entirely fake and just selling something that's not true. That the more I've seen that, I'm like, I'm just going to be me, and that attracts people who want honesty and want that. And the name of my nutrition consulting company is Ethos Nutrition Coaching, because the ethos is such an important part of what we do. And everything goes back to that. So as a kid, unlike a lot of people in nutrition and fitness, I was not fit at all. I grew up an overweight kid. I played sports. I wasn't good at any of them, but I was a very active kid. I grew up. We didn't even have a TV till I was older. We were very poor. So my parents, the year I was born, which is 1987, my parents combined made $7,000 that entire year. So we were not wealthy. So we played a lot outside. I was active, but I was just an overweight kid. Later found out too that there was other things I was dealing with. I had ADHD, and I said this to you, and I say it to people all the time. I had real ADHD because it's kind of become like a pop culture thing. If someone can't pay attention, I'm sorry, I have ADHD. I'm like, no, you don't. You were texting while I was talking. So I had real ADHD, and I have real OCD, which is another pop culture thing. People say they have OCD now. I'm like, no, you just like things to be in order, and most people do. But I have real ADHD and real OCD, and I also have something called chronic motor tic disorder. So if I get physically or emotionally stressed, it could even be emotional. I can be in a great place and everything, but if I've had too much caffeine, or if I just didn't sleep enough, or anything like that, it can still come on, and I'll get these tics that I don't even know I'm doing. So as an overweight, not wealthy kid, and I don't like to use the word poor because honestly, I didn't even know we didn't have much money until I was older, because my parents just didn't make us feel like we did. They were super involved, and we just didn't know. So as an overweight kid with a lot of things that made me a weird kid, that tics when he's stressed, I got picked on a lot, which made me tick more, which made me get picked on more. And when people are bullied, they become one thing or the other. They either find a way to use that to overcome it, or they become a bully. and made sure I didn't do the latter. So eventually it was one of those things. I was just kind of tired of being bullied, and I was tired of being an overweight kid who I wanted to be something different. And I wasn't good at sports. Like I said, I played baseball, basketball, football. I played them all, and I wasn't good at them, and I had zero interest. My dad was a sports fan. He loved sports. He never pressured me to play, but I knew he loved it. So I wanted to play all these sports, and they just bored me to death. I remember hearing coaches playing baseball talk about get aggressive. I'm like, this is a non-contact sport. How do you get aggressive? What are you talking about?
I'm the same way because I played ice hockey, so I was like, yes, I'm there. Aggressive, I got it. You know?
I just couldn't get into these sports, and then I started thinking about wrestling. I went from 5'8", 212 pounds to 6 foot, 178.
Wow!
Like from the end of school to the start of school.
Wow. You came back to school.
Yeah.
And this fall, where people are like, who is this guy?
Treat me much different.
Yeah.
And I just developed some self-respect, and wrestling taught me a lot, and I was good at it. Like I liked the physical, something about it. I couldn't wrap my head around other sports very well, but the thing about wrestling, that I still say it's the greatest sport, because wrestling, you can be less talented but work harder and win. And I love the fact that I can just run extra, I can drill more, and then I can beat someone who's actually better than me. So I took up to wrestling and loved that sport, just absolutely loved it. And after wrestling, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew was I really loved that. It was the first thing I was good at. So through wrestling, I learned about fighting, like mixed martial arts. It was just getting really popular. It was the year the Ultimate Fighter started, and I had just had a knee surgery from wrestling, and I was laying in bed with my knee sewn up watching the first ever Ultimate Fighter finale. And I remember like saying to my family, like, these guys are idiots. I started training, and I love fighting. I'm a mild-mannered guy, but I love fighting. It's just I don't know what it is. I just think it's fun. I think it's I just think it's a fun thing. So I started doing that. But being a former overweight kid, I still had that mentality of you have to stay this way, and being in a weight class sport. So then I started battling eating disorders from being obsessed with this scale. Now here I was. I didn't have to weigh this certain thing anymore, and I'm much bigger. I'm working out, like I'm maturing, I'm getting man muscle, but in my head, like I still have to weigh this same weight. So I started battling eating disorders. I decided to go to school for nutrition. The only reason I went to school for nutrition is because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that would help me as a fighter. At the same time, so all this happened in 1 year. I went professional in fighting. I started school for nutrition, and I opened up a business. All at once. It was very, very, I just jumped off a cliff. So I had $2,000 to my name, and I went and found the first place that I thought, I didn't think about any smart business plans. All I thought was, okay, I need a place that would be a good gym. I didn't think about how much it would cost. I didn't know any of that stuff. So $2,000 when it comes to equipment buys you 2 squat racks and a few plates.
And some water, right?
That's it.
It did then. Does it do that now?
Yeah, I don't even know if it'll do that now. So pretty much my gym was some rubber mats, some carpet, 2 squat racks, some benches, and then a bunch of rusty old donated equipment. We had medicine balls that were basketballs filled with sand and then duct taped. We had kettlebells we welded. But I just spent my entire life savings on gym equipment, and I didn't even have the money to pay rent the first month. And then I had nowhere to live, because I also moved out of my parents' house at that point. So there was an attic in the gym, so I decided I was going to live there. So
Legally?
Illegally, completely illegally. I can say it now. No heat, no air, no windows. The only exit was down the steps and back through the gym. So I had fire extinguishers like through the apartment and in the stairway, just in case there was a fire downstairs. I'd have to fight my way out. I just made it work. Every dime the gym made, I just put back into it. So I didn't have enough money to pay rent the first month, but like right off the bat, but I got enough members month one to be able to pay rent.
Okay, let's stop there.
Yeah,
I
I
got
have
to
a
dig deeper
question,
than
yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
so first thing, and let's go back to the sports, right? Because I think
Yeah.
sports is a great analogy for business, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, competition and stuff. I was always small when I played hockey, so you had to like do above and beyond, you know, just like all that stuff. So, what point did you say, "Hey, I want to go this way"? You know, as far as going into business and stuff. What triggered that?
I did not. I think a part of it was the attitude of being a former bullied kid, and I had a couple jobs through the last couple years of high school. I had a couple different jobs, and my managers were bullies, and the owners and the regional, they were all. I thought they were bullies. I thought they didn't work hard. I think they expected more out of me than they expected myself, or than they expected out of themselves.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. And I always said I was not. I've never been a good employee because I always felt I worked harder than the people above me. So I just said I'm going to do this myself because I think I'll be better at it. It was part of that new kind of wrestling attitude I developed with myself, and that was just the only way it was going to be. I literally had no plan B. Like that was literally it.
Which is a lot of times what scares the crap out of people, but that's a lot of times that you're going to have to make that move, unless it's not going to work. If you have a plan B, then it's probably plan A is probably not going to work, right? So you got $2,000, you found the place, you got equipment, you spent all the money. How did you start getting clients?
Yeah.
Word of mouth. I was kind of starting to gain some notoriety as a fighter in the area. I was getting some popularity because my fights were real. I was just known as someone who bled a lot when I fought, and my nickname was Melee, which means unorganized combat. I would go out there and I would be smiling and laughing and just having a good time while I'm bleeding everywhere. It was just fun. People love that. So here I was, the nice guy that would like help my guy up and hug him, and you know. So people just kind of started to get to know me. So they started like inquiring about that, and then just a lot of it was like guerrilla marketing. I would just go everywhere, and I didn't have business cards or anything. I would just go tell them about it, like, hey, you should come try this. And then we did a bunch of outside workouts where people could see. We were doing buddy carries. I just wanted people to see that we were doing something different. And it was before you know, CrossFit's a popular thing. There was no CrossFits in the area, so we were the first. So we were bringing this new form of fitness in that no one had ever seen. And
to me, that's just amazing because there's so many excuses out there when people don't make it, and they complain about not having a budget, marketing plan, this and this and this and this, and you throw that all aside, and you can still build the clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had someone once. They said, "Well, here's the thing." Like they were kind of downplaying it a little bit, and they were like, "Yeah, but it was only $2,000. If you lost $2,000, what'd you lose?" I'm like, "But that was my only $2,000."
I know.
Like that's like $1 million. That's like someone worth $1 million giving $1 million. Like that was it. I'm like, if that didn't work, because I signed a lease agreement too. Like I signed a year lease.
You had no other option than to succeed and be successful. So
I decided right then, like it was just going to work. And I just knew that I would live as poor as I needed to. I lived off of my fight money, so all of the money the gym made just went back into the gym. And the money that I personally lived off of was the money I made from fighting. And back then, you're talking that would be like I would fight and win and come out with $1,500, $2,000.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They say, well, you know, if I start a business, I want to start paying myself right away. Well, you got to pay the business first, so you can pay yourself down the line.
Absolutely. And we were able, after I want to say 2 years. After 2 years, moved to like to somewhere double the size of that, and I was able to actually afford rent for a home at that point. And then after 2 years in that facility, we went into a spot 3 times bigger, and ended up getting to the point that my gym was pretty much self-sustaining. And I just, honestly, it's a whole other thing, but I always said the day I didn't like it anymore, I would sell it. And I remember waking up one morning, and at this point my nutrition business was taking off, and I was having more fun with it. Like truly, I opened up a gym because I liked fitness, and I wanted something that gave me the flexibility to train for fights. I didn't have like this huge passion for gym ownership. It wasn't anything like that. Very quickly in the nutrition, I was passionate about nutrition, like obsessed absolutely obsessed with
Did
it.
you get
Still
into
am.
that first just like with your members? Like, so people who were wanting to lift and they're maybe wanted to see better results and you're like, well, hey, let's look at this.
Yeah. Ground zero was myself, client one was me. So everything I ever wanted to do, I tested on myself first. And I'm like neurotic, and a lot of this is the OCD. But it's, so I remember I wanted to test out, for instance, a strict paleo diet, and that was back then, like strict was no honey, no artificial, like zero sweeteners whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it was a year. Like literally, I did a year. I said I was going to, and I didn't have a sweet potato. I mean, literally, it was meat, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, for a year.
Yeah.
And I had no issue doing that. It was because I just said I was going to do that. And now actually, I talk against people being that strict because I wanted to experience it.
Yeah.
And my experience is what led me to no longer think people should do that. So I was client one, and then my members were other clients. I would just help buddies for free and stuff like that. And then I ended up selling the gym because I woke up one day and was like, I don't want to coach. Like I didn't love it, and I sold it 2 days later for the first price that was offered to me, though way underpriced. Someone later that also found out it was for sale told me, they were like, I would have given you like
way more than
that. I'm like, but you weren't, I wanted it gone then. And it was from the time I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, I was no longer a gym owner in 48 hours. And it felt great because I'm not passionate about it.
You get so driven, like when you decide to do something, you do it, you go all in. And once you're done, you're done. You're done.
Exactly.
You're out that quick.
Exactly. It was kind of exciting for me and a little scary because then I was kind of back to where I started. I no longer, I no longer had a set income because I was now doing nutrition full time, and I had never done nutrition full time. It was a very part-time job. I was married and I went through a divorce around the same time. So I was literally starting from scratch, everything. I was like, okay, here we go. I've done this before, I can do this,
Oh my gosh.
And, and I did. I still remember the first 2 UFC people I ever worked with. It was 100% for free. So the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, is the biggest organization in fighting. And I was still fighting at this time. And first 2 people I worked with were for free. And then at the time, one of my top 10 favorite fighters of all time, I meet him. I happen to meet him when we're out at some other fights, and he talks about working with me. I'm like, he's never going to call me, and he calls. And he goes, well, what do you charge? I'm like, yeah, I'll get you a business plan together. I'm like, I don't charge anything. Like I didn't tell him that, but I got to get a business plan together. And so I, at that point, had to start charging for fighters. At that point, I was just charging general population.
Gotcha.
I was just trying to get into athletes. So then, okay, now I guess I'm working with professional athletes. So I started working with that guy. His name was Chris Weidman. Just a former UFC champion, just an amazing person. But so I started working with Chris Weidman, and then I remember I get a call one day from Daniel Cormier, who was my absolute favorite fighter of all time. Like still to this day is my favorite fighter. I get a call from him asking about working for him. And this was 1 year into me doing this as an actual thing.
Amazing. That's awesome.
And I decided right then, I'm like he will never know that I even care who he is. I get a call from Daniel Cormier, and he wants me to come out and live with him for 8 weeks. And not just help his nutrition, but actually cook his food and do all this stuff. And this is my favorite fighter of all time. And I'm like, well, when? He goes, like 2 weeks from now. I'm like, okay. So I spent 2 weeks just glued to books and YouTube and everything I could on how to cook healthy. And I mean, I probably spent a few $100s on books and things, just absorbing this and studying it. I go out there and show up on his doorstep, and
here I am.
This is what I do. And from there, he becomes he was the UFC champion, and then after that, I get hired by Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's another UFC champion, probably the greatest fighter of all time. Then get hired by Max Holloway, who's another UFC champion. So then I start working with all these UFC champions. So then before I even realized that's who I was, it's who I was. It literally became something that I never even intended it to be. I just went in head first, and I was better at it than I thought I would. So you have to be obsessed with it, I think. And some people might be able to, but you know, like Tesla is Tesla because Elon Musk is like obsessed. Yes, and he's obsessed. Like he can't even have a conversation about like normal things. Like he really like he's not a normal person. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have time for chit chat. And then sometimes when you're obsessed with something, you don't have time just to chat about anything because your time is so limited.
Yes.
You know, every minute matters so much.
Yeah, and that's me. Like if I'm having a conversation, I struggle. I don't hang out with people. Honestly, I just don't much because I'm like I don't know how to
chit chat. I don't know how to chit chat sometimes. I have no problem talking in front of people, but just chit chatting about chit chat, that's tough for me.
Yeah, and it's like I can talk about nutrition, I can talk about fitness, I can talk about business, but I can't talk, and it's just not my passion, so I'm not good at it. I'm not good at talking about other stuff. And so I'm very limited in my friend group. I only have one hobby, and it's hunting. So my friends are either in my circle or they hunt.
Yeah,
and if
exactly.
Other than that, it's like I like you. I just don't know what to talk to. And I work with like some of the best fighters in the world. I have not watched a UFC fight in over a year.
Yeah.
I don't even the people I work with. I look on Twitter for updates. I don't like watch the fighting because I'm so in tune like with that athlete. I can't help what they do once they enter. My job is to get them in shape and get them there, and I feel so out of control while they're fighting, and it causes me so much anxiety. I can't watch it. I didn't get nervous when I fought, but if someone I care about, if they're fighting, it freaks me out.
No way.
So it's it's one of those things.
So what is one of the biggest things, like if you're going to give advice to somebody who fresh out of high school, college, whatever it was, ready to start something, what is your biggest advice, or maybe like something that an error that you made, like a mistake that you made that you just wish you hadn't and you had learned from?
And I mean this with respect, but I got married to someone I should not have been married to. And I know this is not a marriage counseling thing, and this isn't even saying anything negative about my ex-wife, who won't watch this anyway. But it's just we were not. It was forced from the get-go. Like it was not. No part of that marriage should have happened, and we fell into you're dating young, so now the next step is this, and the next step is this. And I have no issue with people dating young or marrying young. It still has to work, and we were not a good couple. She's in a relationship now that I'm sure, I have known nothing about it, but I'm sure it's great. I'm in a marriage now that's just absolutely fantastic. And once I married the right person for me, everything exploded. Like everything in my life started just clicking. So that's one thing. I've been talking to a lot of young people about that because I have a lot of like young friends that are starting to get engaged. I'm like, listen, that's fine.
But make sure it's the person who elevates you.
Yes. Like if there's anything, like I can look back, there were things about my ex-wife that I'm like, it would be a perfect relationship if she could be this, but I'm going to help her become that. Well, you're not. And she felt the same way about me. I had all these huge aspirations to do the things I'm doing now. I wanted to do those then, and she didn't, and that was fine. She was very comfortable to just have a normal job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I had it in my head, well, I'm going to do it, and then she's going to see how cool it is, and she's going to no. She didn't change because you don't change people. People say like the whole you never work. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't work. I feel the same way about marriage. So people have said like, oh, marriage is work. I'm like, I don't know. I really don't think it's that hard. I mean, there's things especially when you throw kids in. I'm not saying it's not difficult. Like I'm passionate about nutrition, but there's times in my job it's stressful. But it's just never really that hard. Like it's just not because you just see it worth it. But that's one thing.
I mean, it's your friends and peers though too.
Yes,
like
you could put
that
that
goes into everything. Like the people that you work with and you surround yourself with. Like, do they support you? Do they have like-minded? Even if they are complacent with where they are in life, but they understand your dreams and goals and they're going to push you forward.
I will say that to two of my earliest clients. Their names are Phil and Steve. They're brothers. That they had ways of thinking that just blew my. They're teachers, but like not only are they teachers, like their thoughts on teaching and everything were like so far evolved what I had ever heard or thought of, or even other teachers. One of them teaches in South Korea now, actually. And the other one's just, I mean, he owns like property in South Carolina or North Carolina, and they're just so forward thinking people. And I didn't agree with like anything they believed, but I liked them as people. And the more I was around them, like I started agreeing with them and understanding their way of thinking. And these guys, when I didn't have the money to go to some of these places to train, when I was just a professional fighter, these guys, like, they're just teachers. The teachers don't make a lot of money, nearly what they should. And these guys would like pay for my flights to go places, or let me borrow their car to like drive to other states and stuff. It's just nuts.
That's amazing.
So like, there's no way like I would do this if it wasn't for those friends. So that would be one thing. The other thing, and again, these are questions I literally get from parents, that I had someone from an old hometown church of mine that I used to go to, had wanted me to talk their kid into going to college. He didn't want to go to college. And they're like, tell him he needs to go to college. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I'm not going to say he shouldn't. But here's why. And this kid was like a sophomore in high school. Yeah. I wish kids would just give themselves the option of college to where they're not having to go crazy in debt for it and then decide. Because it's a much easier decision if your college is paid for. Or, I mean, even you go to a local community college.
Or a trade school or something.
Absolutely. If it's paid for, like if you worked hard, it's paid for, well then you have the decision. So then if you made the wrong decision and you go to college, now you're not.
Yeah, it's not following you around. That's not following you around.
Exactly. But I'm like, exactly. And that's what's where I say, I'm not going to tell him he needs to go to college. I will tell him he should work hard enough to where it's a cheap option. He needs to go head first into whatever else is, and that's just huge. I've had other like younger friends that they didn't want to go to college, but they had no idea what they wanted to do, and they didn't really get passionate and work hard towards anything. I'm like, listen, like if you're not going to go to college, you have to spend that time doing something. Like there's a million things you could be doing.
When you do something, like you said, go all out, because there's going to be connections from that eventually, and there's going to be lessons learned from that eventually down the line that you can't see right now, that's going to come at that point. I used to work in a machine shop. I hated it, but I learned so much that applied to the mortgage business.
I believe it.
You know, it's the same thing what you were saying.
I never liked any of my bosses. I told you that.
Yeah.
I just thought they were bad bosses. Yeah. But I learned a lot of good lessons. I'm like, I'm not going to be a bad boss.
Yeah.
I know
I'm not doing that.
I didn't really learn how to be a good boss. I just learned how to not be a bad one.
Exactly.
And those were important lessons. Those were maybe even more important. This generation right now have the capacity to change the world or absolutely burn it down. And they have the technology they have everything they need. For free. Yes, everything they need to just absolutely excel or absolutely ruin them and everyone around them. Yes. So if we're going to circle that into the thing, back to the thing, like with young people especially, it's I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I'm very successful at my job. I consider myself to be one of the absolute best in the world. But a large part of that is also my ability to network, my ability to communicate, and my ability to just be likable by the people in the room with you. You know, honestly, you have to be. My wife is a massage therapist. She's very good. Like people that like we'll talk to, like, your wife's like the best massage therapist.
She's also so sweet.
She's very nice, very nice. People come from like hours to get massages from her, and I've told her, I'm like, I don't think you realize that it offended her. Like, she thought I was downplaying her ability. I said, you don't realize that people are more likely to get massages from you because, not just because you're good, but because they actually like to spend an hour of their time with you. She's like, well, I'm really good. I'm like, I know, but what I'm telling you, if you were a really good massage therapist, but people didn't like to spend an hour of their time, they're not going to do it. No one's going to spend 60, 70, 80, whatever dollars it costs to spend 60 minutes with someone they don't like. And that's invaluable. So like it really is. Well, real estate was the same thing. If you're, if I have a real estate agent or someone who's like showing me a house, but I don't want to walk through the house with this person because they're just nauseating or they're like, I'm less likely to buy the house just because I didn't enjoy the time looking through it. You know,
absolutely.
That's
so
any job.
I'm super impressed by you as a person, as a human, as an entrepreneur. So thank you for coming out. I've been very excited about this one.
Awesome meeting you.
Yes. And stay tuned for another episode next week of Selling Tri-Cities, where we are selling more than homes. If you are a small business owner or an entrepreneur and would like your business highlighted, please call 423-741-2564 or email aubrey.tellerico85@gmail.com. We would love to showcase your business.